The moment I realized no one had thought about me, everything changed. I have lived 67 years on this earth. I buried a husband. I raised 2 sons on a teacher's salary. I drove through snowstorms to make it to every single baseball game, every school play, every graduation. I am not a dramatic woman. I am not the kind of mother who causes scenes or demands to be the center of attention. But I am also not the kind of woman who will be treated like an afterthought and smile through it. This is the story of the weekend I stopped smiling. It started as a celebration. My son Daniel and his wife, Kristen, had been planning a family reunion weekend for nearly 4 months. It was supposed to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary and double as a family gathering. Daniel's brother Marcus was flying in from Seattle, cousins were driving up from Georgia, and my sister Paulette was making the trip from Florida. The plan was to rent out a block of rooms at a lakeside resort about 2 hours from our hometown. Kristen handled all the bookings. She had volunteered enthusiastically. "Don't worry about a thing, Linda," she told me over the phone in February. "I've got everything under control. Just pack your bags and show up." So that's what I did. I packed my nicest summer dresses. I bought a new pair of sandals. I brought a photo album I had been putting together for weeks, pictures of Daniel as a baby, family vacations, old Christmases. I wanted this weekend to be meaningful. I wanted to give something of myself to the people I love. I drove 2 hours with my sister Paulette, windows down, singing along to Aretha Franklin. We were happy. We were excited. We pulled into that resort parking lot feeling like the weekend was already a gift. Then we walked up to the front desk. The moment everything shifted. "Reservation under Henderson," I told the young woman at the desk. She typed, scrolled, frowned slightly, typed again. "I'm showing reservations for Daniel Henderson, Marcus Henderson, and several others in your party," she said carefully, "but I'm not seeing a room under your name." I blinked. "Could you check again, Linda Henderson?" She checked again. She checked 3 times. She called over her manager. They searched every variation of my name, my phone number, my email address. Nothing. There was no room for me. Paulette put her hand on my arm. I could feel her holding her breath. Around me, the rest of the family was checking in, laughing, collecting their key cards, already talking about dinner plans. Nobody had noticed yet. I stood at that counter for a long moment. I felt something move through me, not quite anger, not quite sadness, something quieter than both, a recognition. I thought about February, about "Don't worry about a thing, Linda, I've got everything under control." I picked up my bag. I smiled at the front desk woman. "Thank you so much," I said calmly. "I'll get this sorted." And I did not say one single word to Kristen. What I did in that 1 hour. I went back to the parking lot. I sat in my car. I let myself feel it, really feel it for about 5 minutes. I am not going to pretend I wasn't hurt because I was, not just about the room, about what the room represented. The idea that everyone else in that family had been accounted for. Everyone else had a place to sleep, a key card, a spot in the plan. And me, I was an oversight. After 5 minutes, I dried my eyes. Then I got practical. I opened my phone and searched hotels within 10 miles of the resort. There was a small bed and breakfast about 4 miles down the road, the Magnolia Inn, with excellent reviews and 1 room available. A corner room with a porch overlooking a garden. It cost less than the resort rooms Kristen had booked for everyone else. I called, I booked it. I drove over, checked in, and stood on that porch for a moment looking at the roses climbing the garden fence. It was quieter than the resort, prettier, honestly. The owner, a woman named Dolores, brought me a glass of sweet tea without me asking. I sat in a rocking chair and I thought about what I wanted to say and what I didn't. 1 hour after I had walked away from that front desk, my phone started ringing. They blew up my phone. It was Daniel first. "Mom, where are you? Kristen just told me what happened. She's really upset. She said it was an honest mistake. The system must have glitched." I let him finish. Then I said, "I'm fine, Daniel. I found a lovely place to stay. I'll see you all at dinner." Mom, I'm fine, I repeated. I'll see you at dinner. I hung up. Then came Kristen, 3 calls in a row, then a text. Linda, I am so sorry, I don't know how this happened, the website must have dropped your reservation, I feel terrible. Then Marcus called, then my sister Paulette, who was still at the resort and apparently had started asking questions, then Daniel again. I turned my phone face down on the porch railing and finished my sweet tea. Here is what I understood in that quiet hour. I had 2 choices. I could storm back to the resort, confront Kristen in front of the whole family, make it a scene, and spend the entire weekend with everyone walking on eggshells. Or I could decide that I was worth more than a weekend ruined by someone else's carelessness, intentional or not, and I could show up with my dignity completely intact. I chose dignity. Dinner and the moment I finally spoke. We had a private dining room at the resort that evening. Long table, candles, family filling every seat. I arrived in my nicest dress, photo album under my arm, and I hugged everyone and meant it. Kristen watched me from the moment I walked in. I could see it, the nervousness, the waiting for me to say something. She had the look of a woman bracing for an explosion. The explosion never came. I sat down, I passed around the photo album. I laughed at stories. I toasted Daniel and Kristen's anniversary, and I meant that too, because whatever my feelings were, their marriage was real, and my son was happy, and that mattered. But after dinner, when the table was clearing, and the kids were running around, and the noise level rose the way it does when a family is all together, Kristen came and sat beside me. Linda, she said quietly, I really need to know you're not upset with me. I put down my glass, I looked at her. And this is the moment I had been waiting for, not to attack her, not to embarrass her, but to tell her the truth in a way she could actually hear. Kristen, I said, I'm not going to pretend the room thing didn't happen. It did, and it hurt, not because of the logistics, but because I want to feel like I matter to this family, not as a guest, as a mother, as someone who should be accounted for. She opened her mouth. I held up one hand gently. I'm not finished. I'm not asking for an apology right now. I'm asking for something longer than that. I'm asking you and Daniel to think about whether I feel seen in this family, because I love you. I love both of you. But love has to be shown in the small things, and right now, the small things are telling me a story I don't like. Kristen's eyes filled up. She nodded. I know, she whispered. I know you're right. We sat together for a while after that. We didn't fix everything in one dinner conversation. You don't fix years of small oversights in one conversation, but something shifted. Something that needed to be said had finally been said. What the weekend taught me. I slept beautifully at the Magnolia Inn, both nights. I had coffee on my porch each morning and watched the garden come alive. Dolores made the best biscuits I have ever tasted in my life. I showed up to every family event that weekend with my whole heart. I swam in the lake with the grandchildren. I stayed up late talking with my sister. I took more pictures for the album. But I also learned something I want to share with every mother, every mother-in-law, every woman who has ever quietly swallowed hurt to keep the peace. Silence is not always strength. Sometimes, silence is just postponing the conversation that needs to happen. I was proud of how I handled that weekend, not because I won anything, not because Kristen and I are suddenly perfect, but because I waited until I could speak from a clear head and a full heart, and when I did speak, it meant something. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to cause a scene to make a point. You just have to be willing, when the moment comes, to say the true thing. I waited, and then I said it. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever been overlooked by family and had to decide whether to say something or let it go? Drop your experience in the comments, and if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to read it today. If you found this story helpful or healing, follow along for more honest conversations about family, boundaries, and the complicated, beautiful mess of loving people.